Mm. Ouch. I don't like not being able to see. I've gotten so used to Zoom. I can see who's on, who's not. Okay. Do I have to say the date? Are we waiting for Wendell? Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. This is a meeting of the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee meeting for October 4th, 2021. The meeting is now called to order. I am the chair, Council Member Maria Cabrera at large. At this time, I will call the roll for the members of the committee first. Nathan Fields. Nathan Field, Councilmember Field.
Yes.
Present. Councilmember Yolanda McCoy. Councilmember Yolanda McCoy. Councilmember Brigida Fields.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Spadola is absent with leave. Councilmember Shanae Darby.
Present.
Thank you. And President Ernest Trippy Congo.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember McCoy.
Present.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have all the committee members with Councilmember Spadola absent with leave. Do we have any other council members present for the meeting today that we can acknowledge? Not hearing anyone, we are going to proceed. The first agenda item is a substitute number 2 to ordinance 21-030, an ordinance to amend chapter 41 of the city code to limit outdoor advertising of alcohol products. We also have a substitute number 1 to ordinance 21-043, an ordinance amending chapter 41 of the city code to limit the outdoor advertising of tobacco products. At this point, the sponsor, Councilmember Shanae Darby, has asked to withdraw these two items, and they will be discussed in a future meeting. So without having any ordinances or anything to vote on, we're going to proceed to the two presentations that we have today, with the first one being a presentation on the Riverfront East by the Riverfront Development Corporation. We'll start with that one. And the second one is a presentation on Jumpstart Wilmington by the Sinair Corporation. So we welcome our presenters, and if anyone has any questions after the presentations, please make sure you sign up on the Zoom room, and we will get to your questions and to your comments. At this point, who will present on Riverfront East?
Hi, Megan McGlinchey, Executive Director of the Riverfront Development Corporation.
Thank you, Mrs. McGlinchey, for joining us today, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cabrera. Thank you for having me. I do have a presentation. We'll get it up on the screen here. So thanks for having me tonight. Just wanted to give you an overview of the newest project that we have announced. As you may know, the Riverfront Development Corporation is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. So we thought it was a great time to announce the new project that we're working on, which is Riverfront East. Thank you. And then I'll move to the next slide, if you could. So this is an artist rendering that was put together as part of a master plan process that we undertook back in 2016. We partnered with the State of Delaware's Department of Transportation, the City of Wilmington's Planning Office, and some of our local developers contributed to putting this plan together. And so we wanted to re-envision what this area of Wilmington could look like. As most of you know, there's not many businesses that are still operating along the riverbank itself. And with the opening of the Margaret Rose Henry Bridge, we felt that this was really the next frontier of riverfront development, since we had the new connection at the southern end of the existing riverfront. We felt that working from building from the progress and success that we had on the existing riverfront, this area was sort of the next frontier. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So this is what that area looked like back in 2016. And the parcel that's sort of near the river on the left there by Christina Landing, as you know, is the Salvation Army. And so when we started the process of looking, at how we would go about developing this, obviously, finding a new home for the Salvation Army was really important to us. So we undertook at that time fairly lengthy conversations with the folks at the Salvation Army about where best, it would be for them to relocate. We didn't want to lose them. They are an integral part and an important part of our community, and the programs that they have there. We didn't want to lose those in the city of Wilmington. So that was really the first thing that we needed to do, was talk to them and find out, would they be willing to relocate and stay in the city to help us, jumpstart this project. So we started those conversations, and we'll go to the next slide. And so then we started to lay out the plan, sort of how we would attack it. So we split the area, 86 acres, into three different areas. And so area one is that northern edge that sits along the Christina and Market Street. We felt that was the best place to start. And obviously that's where the Salvation Army sits. So we'll go to the next slide. So then when we were trying to figure out, where would be the best location for the Army, it needed to still be in the city. It needed to be on a major thoroughfare, a bus line. And so we looked at the parcel of land just north of the 76ers now Chase Fieldhouse. So this, you can see there's a little artist rendering of where that new facility will be. That will be just north of Judy Johnson Drive, right there at by the 76ers facility. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is a street view of the new facility that we are building, the Salvation Army, right there at the corner of Walnut and Judy Johnson. So on the left of the slide is the retail store. So we're replacing exactly what the Army has on its existing campus. So that will be the retail store. In the back to the north of the site is their warehouse, where they process and store all of the goods that they receive for donations. And then on the right is the 80-bed adult rehabilitation center. So they have 70 beds for men and 10 beds for women. So we'll be replacing that facility in kind. That construction started this summer. And, if you've driven by recently, you can see there's steel in the air. You all should have received an invitation. We're having a beam signing event next Friday at 11 to kind of celebrate, another milestone in the project. So next slide, please. So, obviously, relocating the Salvation Army is a critical piece to actually start the infrastructure work that we want to do within the Riverfront East project. So this is a rendering of the site plan that our engineers have put together. So this is Area 1. So this will be the area that we'll focus on in the beginning for the infrastructure improvements. So we will be putting a new road network in there, this new road, which, on this we're calling South Orange Street. We know that, may not be the final name of it. We'll have to talk to the planning department about that. But we are building this new network. We'll have this new spine, and this South Orange Street will actually connect all the way through the development to the Henry Bridge. So there'll be really improved traffic patterns within this area. You can also see that at the intersection of A and South Market, we will be putting a new traffic signal. We know that, from what we've seen ourselves and reports that we've gotten from folks that are living in this area in Southbridge and Christina Landing, the speed at which people come over the South Market Street Bridge and down South Market Street can be challenging at times, especially for pedestrians. So we've been working very closely with DelDOT on doing a traffic study for this area, and it was recommended that a new traffic signal be put in there at that intersection. We will also be building a river walk on this side. It's 3,700 linear feet over Area 1 and Area 2, because obviously providing public access to the river, is an integral part of our mission. And so we are including that in the infrastructure improvements. The areas in blue, those are what we're calling our developable parcels. So as part of the plan, we are getting all of these sites, we're acquiring these sites, and we're getting them ready for development. So they will be able to be sold to private developers to come in and, put different, mixed use projects in that site. So we'll move to the next slide. So this is just, an artist concept rendering of what South Market Street could look like. As you can see, there's bicycles in there. We will, have some areas within the development for bike traffic. We're also improving pedestrian access. We'll have, the setbacks, the buildings will be set back a little bit further from Market Street. We will also be providing on-street parking throughout the development and as well as along Market Street. Take the next slide, please. So this is a rendering of Orange Street, that new South Orange Street. As you can see here, we are proposing dedicated bike lanes. We felt that it was important with obviously the connection to the Henry Bridge and the Markel Trail to the south. We wanted to provide another connection for cyclists to get through the development. And we felt that on Orange Street is probably the more appropriate location for those dedicated bike lanes. One thing that is not in this rendering because it was an early one, but we do have in the plan, we will actually have protected intersections. So you'll see in the kind of the middle of the slide where there's green, it's almost like a little roundabout that will have protected intersections so that cyclists will be able to, to get through those intersections safely and won't have to compete with cars that, that they typically do on your, typical city street section. Next slide, please. So this is an area that we're calling the Bend. So this is sort of where the river bends there and goes around towards the South Market Street Bridge. So this will be kind of the end of the Riverwalk. The Riverwalk will, on the slide, it's off to your right. So this will be kind of a public gathering space right at the bend of the river. Next slide. And this shows kind of a pedestrian level view of what that bend area is. So we envision this to be programmed, any number of ways, whether it's, a weekly farmer's market or, food trucks coming, just things that energize this area and support the development that would be coming around it. Next slide. So this is just an artist rendering of what the Riverwalk would look like. And as you can see in the background kind of the rendering, it shows bicycles kind of on its own dedicated path. And what we've learned from the existing Riverwalk that we have, and with the addition of the Markel Trail, they've really brought, the trail has really brought, a tremendous increase in bicycle traffic. And it's been very challenging in certain areas of the Riverwalk where it's narrow to accommodate all of the uses throughout the day, whether it's bikers, walkers, runners, moms with strollers, people in wheelchairs. It has been in certain areas a little challenging for everybody to kind of share the road. So we're purposely developing the Riverwalk on this side, on Riverfront East, to be a lot wider, and we will have this dedicated area that will be just for cyclists. So we think that'll be, a more pleasant and safer experience for everyone. Next slide, please. So this is just a kind of a pedestrian level view of what the Riverwalk could look like. It will be set back a bit from the water, and it will give us an opportunity, to plant a lot of interesting trees and flowers along the way, just make it a beautiful place for people to come to. Next slide, please. So this is what we envision for what we're calling kind of the central green. So this is the large green space, about 2 acres, that sits kind of in the middle of Area 1 and Area 2. It's sort of, straddles the end of Area 1. But we envision this to be, a large public gathering space for the community. We're looking at, programming it differently, maybe having, like a nature playscape for kids to be able to play on. The programming isn't completely set, but we do want this to be a really special gathering place for the community. Next slide. So just to give you a sense of the project by the numbers, so the phase 1, which is that Area 1, that the infrastructure cost is about $30 million. The funding has been allocated by the state of Delaware through the capital bond bill. The total infrastructure budget for all 3 areas is approximately $100 million. As I mentioned before, the total project is 86 acres. What will be created once the roads are put in and the Riverwalk are put in, we'll have about 35 acres of these developable parcels, the blue parcels that I showed on the map before. And then the open space, that'll be about 13 acres of open space, public space, and that includes that 3,700 linear feet of the Riverwalk. Next, please. Employment-wise, so for that phase 1 construction, we anticipate about 179 new jobs, and we would anticipate in each of the next phases to have that number be roughly the same, because each area, the scope is about, the construction of the infrastructure, it's about the same. Obviously, in the future, the opportunities will grow depending on how the land is developed. And programmed. One thing that we have put in place just recently at the RDC is a contractor compliance program. So this program will require the prime or lead contractors on our infrastructure projects to consider diverse business enterprises and small business enterprises as subcontractors or labor employees. And the RDC will consider those DBE and SBE involvement as a basis for consideration for any contract that we award. The contractors will have to show, written proof that they have solicited subcontracts, from these certified DBE and SBE firms. And then also we've been in talks with the Pathways to Apprenticeship program about partnering with them. They are starting a minority contractor development program. So we're hoping that we'll be able to partner with them to identify more minority contractors within the city to participate in our programs. Next slide. So timeline wise, so the phase 1 road construction that will start probably around this time next year in 2022. As I said, we have started the construction already on the Salvation Army project. So once that building is complete and the Army relocates, then we would be able to go in at that time and start construction on the infrastructure there. And we would anticipate that that first phase would be completed probably in early 2024. And then we would anticipate that we could just start at that point and, move into area 2 and have, that infrastructure work done at that time. Next slide, please. So this is just our website. Wanted to let folks know all the information related to the project. Everything I talked about tonight is on our website, riverfronteast.com. And as the project evolves and updates, are received, we'll be posting all that information on our website for folks, to be able to access there. We also have a newsletter that folks can sign up for to get updates as well on the project. And with that, I think my last slide is next. So that is my presentation, and I'm absolutely happy to answer any questions that any council members may have.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Megan McGlinchey. That was a wonderful presentation. It's great to see what we anticipate we're going to see as our city continues to expand. We are now going to take questions first from council members and then from the public. I would like to start with a couple questions and then we will open it up to the other members. And I also want to acknowledge that Councilmember Harley has joined us. First, I wanted to ask, will there be any walks or bike paths that will connect to the Southbridge community?
I know that DelDOT already has plans for, I think it's a multimodal path down A Street. So we would anticipate that the new section of A Street that we're building that will connect to the South Orange and to the Riverwalk, that would connect to that multimodal path that DelDOT is putting in along A Street. Yes. So at this time, that's the only connection that's anticipated there at A Street.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question is, could you share the percentage of affordable housing that's being designated for that area?
Well, the RDC is not going to be building any of the housing. So we'll be soliciting private developers to come in and invest in the city and build those projects. And so we'll be in conversations with them about, what the mix of housing looks like. So we don't have any numbers right now because we don't have any projects that are committed at this time.
Okay, great. So that'll be a question that we'll have to ask when the development goes, because I do remember hearing that in the presentation that there would be a certain percentage of affordable housing for that community. I have a couple other questions, but I'm going to wait because maybe some of the council members would like to ask them. And we're going to start with President Congo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Megan, for your presentation.
Sure.
Just for clarity, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly or not, but you said there's going to be a consideration requirement for the DBE contractors.
Oh,
I'm sorry, you
President
cut
Congo,
out.
can you repeat?
I didn't hear
cut
that.
out the first
Sorry.
part of the question.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's going to be, is it going to be a consideration to use DBE contractors or a requirement?
Yeah, it's a requirement that DBE and SBE contractors are solicited for the work, and then we will base our decisions on our awarding those contracts on what that mix of DBE and SBE contractors are.
Okay, thank you. And is there going to be a certain required percentage of contractors, or how's that going to work? Or
We don't have a percentage requirement, but our board is committed to utilizing as many, city contractors and minority contractors as we can possibly find.
okay, all right, thank you very much.
And the next question is from Councilmember Shanae Darby.
Yes, thank you. That council president took one of my questions right out about the percentage. Would you guys be willing to actually include a certain percentage that is required for DBE to make sure that that does happen?
Well, I mean, I think we're willing to discuss it, but I don't think we necessarily want to, we're not going to limit ourselves to a number, right? I mean, I think our goal is to get as much participation as possible. So we're committed to that. It's a new program that our board, passed and, came up with and decided that this was really important to us. I mean, I think we're happy to discuss it, but, I think we would probably exceed it.
Yes, I hope it's succeeded. I have one more question. Is that okay?
Yes, proceed.
Yes, I had a question about the going back to Salvation Army again. Why is it being relocated from that community? And it is going, you said it's going to Walnut and Jude Johnson?
Right. So it's being relocated just across. So it sits on Market Street now. It's just being relocated to Walnut Street. Because we envisioned, that when we did the master plan, that this area would be, a mixed use community. And we thought that, having them along Walnut Street was a good location for them to be relocated. So we started those conversations with them, and they were willing to relocate so we could put this new, because the road network that we want to create goes right through their building. So that was the main reason that we had to relocate them.
Follow-up question. Is that
Yes,
okay?
you may.
Are you guys helping to fund their relocation?
Yes, as part of the, we have an exchange agreement that we have with them. And because of the road goes through their building, we're acquiring their property and building them a new facility. So yeah, there's no out-of-pocket costs for the Army for this relocation project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for answering those questions. And next we go to Councilmember Nathan Fields.
Hi,
Council. Mhm.
my question is related to planned office space, and because of the pandemic, I think it's widely talked about and written about in the media. Work patterns are changing, and nobody really knows whether there will ever be a return to office kind of work at an office situation, that was happening up to early 2020. So my question is, to what extent are these plans for office space fixed? And to what extent are we factoring in the huge degree of uncertainty about what the future of work is going to look like?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So, when we put this plan together, obviously it was in 2016. So the world was a very different place. So what the planners envisioned at that time for a mix of, commercial office space, residential, retail, we know now or still sort of the end of the pandemic, we know that probably is not realistic. But what, we think is great about the plan is that it's very flexible, right? So our goals, are to come in and put in the road network, right? And create these parcels that are ready for development. And then we'll work with developers to bring in the best projects for Wilmington. And we know that, the office building of the future is most likely going to look a lot different than it does right now. But we have a blank canvas, right? So we're not having to go in and retrofit existing buildings that are in the way. because we just don't have them. So we think that we can be really flexible with this plan to meet the demands of the market moving forward.
Any further questions, Councilman Field? Not
No,
seeing any.
no further questions.
Thank you. And we will proceed to Councilmember Harley.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention that I think I heard about percentages of minority contractors. There is something in the charter that speaks to local hire and as it relates to minority contractors. So that's already in the charter. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of council before I open it to the public?
I don't have a question. I'm sorry. I couldn't raise my hand. Sorry.
Is that okay? Councilmember Brigida Fields?
No, McCoy was first. I'll wait.
Okay, Councilmember McCoy, you may proceed.
Thank you. So my question to Ms. McGlinchey is, thank you so much for making a presentation. The concept looks great. Wanted to find out, besides this presentation, exactly where does the city stand with this? Like, what responses or anything that is actually required from the city to move forward with this plan? Just wanted to get that information out up front.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. I forgot to mention that we have been working closely with the city, specifically the Public Works Department, on, because obviously in, putting in this new project, there needs to be new sewer connections, new water connections, new stormwater connections. So we've been working very closely with the Public Works Department on designing that public system that will be able to support this new development. And the project costs for that will be borne by the project. So the city won't be paying for the improvements to the public infrastructure there in the area. But we have been working very closely with the Public Works Department on making sure that whatever we put in, it works within the system that already exists, and where improvements need to be made, the project will be making those improvements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have for now.
thank you. Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. McGlinchey, I just want to say thank you so much for doing that presentation. I have one question. Are you familiar with the 4th Street Delta project that they have coming that they have coming up 4th Street? Are you familiar with that?
I am not, no.
Okay, I was just wondering because I know that you're talking about building the bike lane and the walkway, and you said that you didn't have a connection from the city into South, I think, what is it, South Market Street or South Orange Street, where the bike lane is, I get which one. But there's an equal of 4 yet. But I'm just they're considering putting bike lanes on 4th Street. So I'm just trying to see how does that add up to going down to Riverfront East, and is that's what they were looking at trying to do. So I just wanted to know if you were familiar with that at all.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard that, but I mean, we have been working obviously pretty closely with DelDOT. So we can talk with them about, how the bike lanes that we're putting in, obviously it would come down A Street and then South Orange to the bridge, but we could talk to them about how we make that northern connection into the, across Market Street and then up to 4th.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions from council members. Councilmember McCoy, is your hand up for a new
Yes.
question?
I'm sorry, I did just have another question.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Ms. McGlinchey, it was basically, I remember the slideshow, and you did place everything in phases. I saw the price tag of 100 million. Is that per phase?
No, that is just the infrastructure cost for all 3 phases. So roughly each phase is anywhere from kind of 30 to 33, 34 million just for the infrastructure, for the new road network and the Riverwalk and the public spaces. So that's not the investment that will be made by the private sector. That's just
Right.
the investment that the state will be making in the infrastructure.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I do have a couple more questions, Ms. McGlinchey. One, I wanted to ask, in that large gathering space where, communities, members can come together, will it be set up almost like an amphitheater style where you could have concerts? Because it looks pretty big, and where something like that would be conducive for concerts, events, activities, amphitheater style, maybe have a staging area. Is that something that's being considered for that area?
I think, yeah, I mean, we're considering all different options. I think that's one area where we're looking for, we'll be soliciting public input to, have folks in the surrounding area, kind of give their thoughts on ultimately what the programming should be in that space. So yeah, we're exploring a multitude of options for that gathering space.
Great. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to announce how the public can give input. But I had a second question, and that is, are they incorporating green initiatives in the building of this area, such as parking lots that have, the drainage for the water to go down? That area is, a well-known flood zone. I know that a lot of things were done when the ShopRite and that shopping center was built, as well as the Southbridge community benefited from some of the improvements. But now that we're going to have more infrastructure on there, I would like to know, as I'm very supportive of green initiatives, is that something that is going to be required or considered?
So what we have discussed, is that there will be green initiatives on the green spaces that we will be building. We'll also be raising the entire site. So the entire development will be raised out of the floodplain. So in areas of development, we'll be putting, anywhere from 5 to 6 feet of additional fill so that all of that site will be out of the floodplain, which we know, obviously that area has historically flooded. But there will be green initiatives that, in the infrastructure improvements that we're building. And then we've also proposed that on the developable parcels, all of the parking will be contained within the parcels themselves. So we won't have any surface parking lots. So we'll be utilizing those developable sites and having the parking on site as well as the on-street parking.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, we thank you for the presentation. And is there, you gave us the website.
Yes.
Is there, when you're saying that you would like to have public input when it comes time for that, is there a number, website, email that people can contact with any thoughts or ideas in the process?
Yeah, we'll be utilizing our website, that riverfronteast.com. So we'll, when the time comes for us to engage with the public, we will be posting that information on the site for people to be able to engage with us. We'll be using our newsletter to solicit that. And then we'll also be going directly to the community associations within the city to solicit input from their members and neighbors as well.
Very well. I agree.
And obviously, I'm sorry, and also, council members, right? So we'll be contacting each of you to help us get the word out to your communities so that we can get that feedback.
That sounds great. And of course, it is the interest of this body and city council that we are happy to have you back to give us updates, to continue with that communication, as we will want to be kept abreast of the construction and the development as it goes into the different stages. So you are most welcome to come back to keep us informed. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And at this point, we are very excited to welcome a presentation on Jumpstart by the Sinair Corporation. So we have a lot of wonderful projects going on in our city of Wilmington. Welcome. And you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. You can go to the next slide, please. Good evening, Madam Chair, council members, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about Jumpstart Wilmington, which is a program aimed to increase local developer capacity in Wilmington and stimulate neighborhood revitalization in Wilmington communities. Next slide, please. This program was developed and launched by SENER, and I would like to acknowledge our program administration partner, the Biden School of Public Policy and Administration's Center for Community Research and Service. Next slide, please. In this presentation, we will share a program overview, intended program outcomes, accomplishments to date, application criteria and expectations, demographics, and we'll also allocate time for questions. Next slide, please. I'd first like to start out by sharing a little bit about SENER for those of you who may not be familiar with our organization. SENER is a nonprofit community development financial institution, also known as a CDFI, which means that we serve as a lending intermediary between banks and the community, usually doing deals that banks shy away from because of the risk. We have been serving the Wilmington and Delaware community for over 25 years under our predecessor, the Delaware Community Investment Corporation, also known as DCIC. We have various lines of business to support affordable housing and community development, which include low-income housing tax credit equity syndication to support multifamily affordable housing development. And some local examples include Village of St. John, the Flats, and Reach Riverside. We also provide new market tax credits if an allocation is received to support economic development. And additionally, we provide community development lending, which includes acquisition, construction, pre-development, permanent, and bridge loans. This type of lending has supported the development of community facilities that bring resources and services to low and moderate income communities. Examples of projects funded include Thomas Edison Charter School and Urban Bike Project. As you can see, we are a lender and do not typically launch training programs. However, we decided to launch Jumpstart Wilmington based on an express need to increase developer capacity in Wilmington, and because Wilmington is one of SENER's priority cities. Next slide, please. The launch of Jumpstart Wilmington was decided based on an express need by local community-based organizations, development entities, and other stakeholders. With over 1,500 vacant and blighted units in the city, increased developer capacity is needed to address this issue, and we believe that helping to create small-scale developers will be the key to creating the scale needed to effectively revitalize Wilmington neighborhoods. Jumpstart Wilmington is modeled after Jumpstart Germantown, which launched in Philadelphia 6 years ago, with the goal of equipping people in the community with the resources to develop their own community and increasing developer capacity. Another goal is to increase the amount of Black and Brown developers as well as women developers. The overall purpose of the program is to promote the growth of local developers through training and development to support neighborhood revitalization and community development solutions by providing aspiring developers with the skills, knowledge, and support they need to rehabilitate properties. The training program consists of 3 main components. First, real estate development training, which covers development fundamentals over 4 training sessions and an orientation within a 1-month period, and I'll talk about this more shortly. Second, mentoring and networking, in which we match the participants who have graduated from the program with a mentor who is an experienced developer to provide guidance and advice to participants as they develop their project. And we also host networking and complementary programs that allow program participants to build their developer network. The third component is to provide financing to support Jumpstart Wilmington graduates' development projects. SENER has launched a pilot loan program to provide a source of capital for our graduates' acquisition and/or construction financing. Next slide, please. Here is a breakdown of the 9 development topics we cover in our Jumpstart Wilmington training. These topics we refer to as jump steps. So in the first column, during our orientation, we provide an overview of the program and help our participants understand a financial pro forma. During this first session, we cover topics such as business planning, the relationship between personal finances and access to capital, developing a real estate development strategy, identifying a team with complementary skills, and understanding ownership structures that help to mitigate risk. During session 2, we cover how and where to find property, including the land bank inventory and through share sale. Understanding a property's strengths and weaknesses, zoning, financial feasibility, and also understanding different types of financing. During session 3, we cover understanding scope of work, construction budgeting, the City of Wilmington's development review process and permitting. We also hear from the Delaware State Housing Authority about sources of capital they have to support real estate development. And Bob Ware presents on the role of real estate and housing and its programs. Lastly, in our final session, we hear from DEMREC about their Brownfield Developer Program and how developers are eligible for their capital resources for brownfield development projects. Participants also learn about contractor selection, construction timeline, project management, marketing, leasing, and managing properties. Next slide, please. We have subject matter experts who serve as speakers, and our speaker slate includes Commissioner Starkey from Licenses and Inspection, Herb Enden and Matt Harris from the Planning Department, Bob Ware from Real Estate and Housing, DSHA, DENREC, realtors, nonprofit and for-profit developers that are currently developing in Wilmington, Ray Sacamandi from the Land Bank, Stand By Me, attorneys, Scenair, and Scenair Solutions. Our mentors are nonprofit and for-profit developers who are experienced in residential, mixed-use, commercial, and/or multifamily development. And we currently have 15 mentors and 23 mentees. Next slide, please. As previously mentioned, we also host networking and complementary programming that allow program participants to build their developer network and continue to expand their knowledge base on the development process. One of which is our monthly Kickstart sessions, which focuses on specific development topics. These are also open to the broader development community, and here's a list of topics included to date. Next slide, please. Our developer networking events are also a companion piece to our Jumpstart Wilmington program. These network events are designed to facilitate relationship building and foster networks and partnerships between Jumpstart Wilmington program participants and members of the development community. We hope to be able to have these events in person in 2022. Next slide, please. I know I've mentioned a few of our programming opportunities, so here's a quick breakdown of each of them. With the 4-week Jumpstart Wilmington training program, there is an application process and participants will be paired with a mentor if they attend all sessions plus the orientation. With the Kickstart sessions, there is not an application process. However, we ask people to register for each event on our website, and attendance at this event does not make you eligible for a mentor. Similarly, with the Developer Network event, there is not an application process. However, we ask people to register for the event on our website. And again, attendance at this event does not make you eligible for a mentor. Next slide, please. Our intended outcome with the program is to increase developer capacity in Wilmington to scale development activity that will help revitalize communities more rapidly. Our ultimate goal is to work in coordination with other developers, the city, land bank, and anchor community-based organizations on a development strategy that will help revitalize communities with an appreciation of a bottom-up approach and community engagement. Other benefits are wealth building opportunities for the small-scale developers and home ownership consumers, creating jobs, and increase efficiency in the development process. Next slide, please. Some of what we'd like to say our short-term accomplishments have been are 5 cohorts and counting. By the end of 2021, we will have completed 5 cohorts, and we are currently placing people in our 2022 cohorts. 54 people have participated in the program, having completed at least one session. 39 of those 54 people have graduated, having completed all sessions and the orientation. Some graduates are beginning to identify sites, and we hope to begin seeing development projects from them soon within the next year or two. We are also working on collaborative opportunities with the Land Bank and City on a process for acquiring property for Jumpstart Wilmington program participants. And we will be looking to partner with the Wilmington Housing Authority on a program that will make some of their long-time vacant properties available to our graduates for acquisition. Additionally, our graduates have been invited to participate at the Land Bank Technical Advisory Board meetings with other Wilmington community development entities. Next slide, please. Here is a list of candidate criteria, and this information is also available on our Jumpstart Wilmington website. We have 2 candidate types. Our traditional candidates are people who intend to develop property on their own or with a development partner after completing the program. Our auditors are people who work for a community-based organization in Wilmington and have a community development mission, or an auditor could be someone who is interested in starting a jumpstart in a different city. Auditors are not eligible for a mentor. Traditional candidates are eligible for a mentor. For review criteria, we highly prefer Wilmington residents, but Wilmington residency is not necessarily required. But the candidate must be committed to developing in Wilmington. And since this is a program for aspiring developers, we view candidates with little to no experience favorably, but we welcome people with varying experience levels. And below are our expectations. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just about finished. I wanted to provide some demographics of our applicants. Gender-wise, we have about 54% women, 43% who have identified as men. Ethnicity, over 70% of people have identified as people of color, with people predominantly identifying as Black or African American. 63% have indicated they are a Wilmington resident. And if you look on the far right, here's the ranking of neighborhood development interest. Most applicants indicate that they're interested in developing multiple neighborhoods. Next slide. And finally, here is some information about our current application round, which closes tomorrow. The application and additional information is available on our Jumpstart Wilmington website. Next slide. Are we able to show this video, which is just a video of some of our graduates talking about their experience going through the Jumpstart Wilmington program?
Yes.
Do we have sound?
Yeah, technical support is working on it.
Hi. Sorry about that.
Makes a difference.
It's just getting started.
Thank
Community-focused development is an initiative and a mindset where everyone plays their part in making their neighborhood a place that's thriving and growing.
It really gets to the people, not just the environment in and of itself. The people are at the heart of it.
Just taking a step back and reevaluating the reason why we're in our communities and the reason why we're doing the things that we do.
I'm born and raised here in Wilmington, as well as most of my family. It was important to connect with a program that's going to change our communities.
When it first came out, I was so ecstatic. I was texting it to my friends. I put it on my Instagram story.
Wilmington has a lot of potential. I thought I could do my part in helping the city.
We all know that we need safer streets, better schools for our children. Maybe you didn't know where to start, but with this program, I was given the tools. I was actually linked up with an awesome mentor. This program provides you with the knowledge and tools that you need to become a developer.
To know the what, why, and how of real estate development.
We learned how deeply complex a project can be. And oftentimes you need to have people who can encourage you, who can work with you, who can partner with you.
I was really motivated to tackle future big ideas.
I want to contribute to the West Side. I want to play my part.
My next step is actually to identify a few different properties that will make a great change within the community.
Do it.
You want to be a part of something and make a legacy for yourself, just do it.
So I usually say it's always nice to present on the Jumpstart Wilmington program, but it's even better to hear directly from people who have gone through the program and their experience. And again, this program, we hope to have a really high impact in Wilmington with creating more developers who care about the community. And this program is about not just making a financial investment in Wilmington neighborhoods, but also making a social investment in Wilmington communities. That concludes my presentation, and thank you again for the opportunity to present, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Deanna Sargent. It was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I'm so excited to hear that this is happening and that we are really engaging our local community and providing those opportunities, which is so important. And of course, my first question or comment is, will you be working with the Riverfront East development? Because it sounds like it's a perfect fit to be able to use those local minority businesses and contractors on that project.
Yes, one of our goals is to really make sure that we are integrated with all of the development entities throughout Wilmington. And I highlighted coordination previously, so we really intend to work in coordination with people who are developing Wilmington neighborhoods.
That's great, because building capacity for our minority business owners and contractors is important so that they are able to bid on these bigger projects. At this time, I will take any questions that we might have from council members. I see Council Member Harleys will be first. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Deanna. Great presentation. Can you talk a little bit about any of the work that Sonera is doing on the East Side? I know that y'all are one of the organizations, along with 3 other organizations that are doing some great work over on the East Side. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, happy to. Sonera as an organization, as I mentioned, has selected Wilmington as one of our priority cities, which means that we are looking to do a deeper dive into Wilmington communities, especially ones that have not seen a lot of investment, especially the investment that we've seen on the riverfront and along Market Street. So within the city of Wilmington, we do have some priority neighborhoods, and the East Side is one of them. And so we are working in partnership with the Central Baptist CDC to develop single family housing for home ownership. So that's one of the bigger initiatives that we have. And we are also developing single family housing for home ownership over in West Center City as well.
Thank you for that. And next we have Council Member Brigida Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say to Ms. Sargent, thank you so much for a very detailed presentation. I enjoyed it a lot, and I was going to ask you, could you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing in West Center City, and what are your future plans for West Center City, if you have some?
Yes, in West Center City, similar to the East Side, is one of our focus areas as well. I'll go ahead and say that the Northeast and the West Side is, and we certainly hope to make it over to Southbridge in the near future. But over in West Center City, very similar to the East Side, right now we are focusing on single family housing development for home ownership, and also working with a group of stakeholders who are collectively developing over in West Center City to see how we can support and advance their neighborhood stabilization goals. And so that's through not only creating the home ownership opportunity, but providing financing to developers who are looking to develop property. And that's for West Center City as well as the East Side, I should say.
Thank you.
And I'll also just add to both Councilwoman Harley and Councilwoman Brigida's Councilwoman Fields' questions with respect to the Jumpstart Wilmington program. Many of our Jumpstart Wilmington participants who have gone through our program already have identified the East Side and the West Side as areas of focus that they wish to develop after completing the program. So hopefully you're happy to hear that. And so we'll have definitely some more small scale developers who are working in those communities. And they're very excited because most of them are actually from those communities. And even if they don't live there still, one of the reasons why they want to go back to develop is because that's where they're from. And some of them still have family and friends who still live in those communities.
Thank you so much for that. Do I see any other council members that might have a question? All right, not seeing any, I would like to just ask one quick question, and then I do want you to share the contact information and how we can help you get the word out. So my last question is, you did mention that you are working with Ray Secamundo in the land bank. Can you give me an idea of how many maybe land bank properties are being developed through your program, and developers that have even bought those up to develop?
So I'll start off by saying that the development process does take time. So acquiring properties and going through that process of completing the application, it does take time, especially for a newer developer. So there have not been any land bank properties that have been developed yet, but I know that let me say that Ray is one of our mentors as well as our speakers. And outside of being a mentor, I know that many of our graduates thus far have reached out to him just to understand the process for acquiring land bank properties. But so not to answer your question more directly, none of the land bank properties have been acquired or developed yet. But to my point earlier, one of the coordinating pieces is to work with Ray to see if we could develop a program where there are some properties that are made exclusively available for our Jumpstart Wilmington graduates to acquire, because one of the challenges with them being newer developers is they have a learning curve to that process. So we want to be able to give them a launching pad to be able to have access to those properties. So that's one of the things that I'll be talking to Ray about, and he's been super supportive of the program. So I'm hoping to see a program in the future where we can have maybe even a set aside of land bank properties made available for our Jumpstart graduates. And what I mentioned about the Wilmington Housing Authority, I literally had a conversation with Ray Fitzgerald today where he talked about an exclusive partnership to have our Jumpstarters develop their long-time vacant properties. So that's very exciting, and I'm hoping to see that replicated with other organizations that have a large amount of vacant properties that need to be developed.
Thank you. And we really are looking forward to having your graduates work with that. And trust me, there will be plenty of land bank properties available as we are focusing on neighborhood stabilization moving forward. That gives you time to get them up and ready. With that, we will have Council Member Harley has her hand up for a question. You may proceed.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, Deanna, how are the projects, the two housing projects on 8th and Jefferson coming along that Sinair basically is working on in the West Center City? How are they coming along?
Yes, so what Councilwoman Harley is referring to are the first three of 9 units that Sinair Solutions, our development subsidiary, are developing for home ownership. And so those properties are located at 8th and Jefferson. And we are, not this week, but maybe next week, hopefully next week, we'll be closing on our lending to Sinair Solutions so that they can go ahead and get construction started. So we are very, very close to seeing shovels in the ground. So we are super excited about that.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Somebody want to? Okay, I don't see a follow-up. And our Chief of Staff, Daniel Walker, would like to ask a question.
Hi, Deanna. Thanks for presenting tonight. I just wanted to go back to the pilot loan program quickly. Could you expand on that a little bit? I want to know, I couldn't tell, was it just getting started? Have people already applied and been accepted? How's that working out?
So we officially launched the pilot loan program I believe it was last month or the month before last. The loan program for the Jumpstart program is exclusively for our Jumpstart Wilmington graduates. So the notice only went out to them, but the information is on our Jumpstart Wilmington website. If you click on loan program, you can see the parameters. So it is new, but through that loan program, we are looking to provide acquisition and or construction financing to a Jumpstart Wilmington graduate for a residential development project that's either rental or home ownership, or it could also be a mixed use project that has commercial space on the bottom and residential on the top. And we have worked with one of our Jumpstart Wilmington grads so far, and this kind of dovetails with the previous question that was asked about land bank properties. This graduate was actually applying to purchase 2 land bank properties. And so we have engaged with them in providing a letter of support to provide financing for that project. So we're still working through the application process and we're in the very beginning stages. But we hope that over the next 6 months, we'll see 1 or 2 of our graduates start to move through that application process so that we can really gauge what the long-term access to capital needs will be for our graduates who are developing properties.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Not seeing, is there anyone from the public that has any questions to ask of our guest? All right, not seeing any. We thank you so much for bringing this wonderful presentation, making us aware of this great program. And I'm so glad that you did come to Wilmington and made us a priority. I know that our developers, I'm sure, and wannabe developers and contractors are looking forward to learning how to do this because we really want to economically develop our own. So I really appreciate that. Good luck with everything that you have going on, and please reach out to us. Anything that we can do to help get the word out, and we welcome you to come back and give us updates. At this time, I would ask that you share your contact information again where people can call and register. And since tomorrow is the deadline for the next class, we really want to make sure people get this information.
Yes, thank you. And I can't say enough. Thank you again for the opportunity to just present and share more information about Jumpstart Wilmington. And everyone in Wilmington who has been a part of this program has been nothing but supportive from day one. So we're so grateful for the reception that we received for this program. Again, my name is Deanna Sargent. I'm Vice President of Community Development at Sinair. My phone number is 302-298 3866. And so you can feel free to contact me that way. Or you could email me at dsargent, SARGENT, at Cinnaire, that's CINNAIRE.com. And you can visit our Jumpstart Wilmington website to learn more about the program in and of itself. Or if you're interested in applying by tomorrow, you can click on the Apply tab and fill out our application. You can also see additional application parameters on that page. And that website is www.jumpstartwilmington.org. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. I really do hope that our residents take advantage of that. At this time, not seeing anything else on the agenda, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That concludes this meeting of the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee. And next Thursday is our City Council's regular meeting at 6:30 p.m. You can either come in person, make public comment, or sign up on Zoom. Thank you for joining us today.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.